Interaction hypothesis and others. At this point, it is important to take stock of where we are and what we are going to cover in the coming weeks. Now, let me remind you, before we move on to the interactionist hypothesis, that Gresham's hypothesis of related to input, comprehensible input, and related to the affective filter triggered several types of researches, and different types of hypotheses were created for the investigation of second language acquisition. So, although there was critique on Gresham's hypothesis, yet it was a source of inspiration to several researchers. So, what are we going to cover in the coming sections? Essentially, the hypothesis or the different trends in researches that we are covering will be seen as a source of inspiration that has been taken from Gresham's work. First of all, we will look at the empirical research done using the interaction hypothesis. Now, let me remind you what interaction hypothesis was. Interaction hypothesis was an assertion or was an assumption that second language acquisition, although it takes place in the minds of the learners, and it is important to understand those cognitive processes, but it is also important to see the interactions within which second language is acquired. So those interactions might be the key to identify why learners at some times succeed in learning the language and why at times they fail. So interaction hypothesis itself has moved through two phases. In its earlier phase, it was mainly focused on descriptions of the situation. That is, it would just tell what type of interactions are taken place when a child learns his or her first language. Then similarly, the same descriptions were applied to the second language classrooms or second language in natural settings, and it was taken upon by the researchers to describe the interaction that takes place between native speakers and non-native speakers. Similarly, at a later stage, it came to be concerned with environmental processing of language. That is, when the learners come across language, target language in their environment, how do they process the language in their minds? We will also look at the current state of output hypothesis. Gresham's input hypothesis led to Swain's output hypothesis. We'll see what that is. We will also look at provision of different types of feedback. As teachers, you would know, most of the time in the classrooms and outside also, we are engaged in giving feedback to our learners. So we will also see what type of feedbacks is useful to the second language acquisition. We will also look at other alternative psycholinguistic theories that are looking more closely at different types of feedback. For instance, noticing hypothesis, input processing hypothesis, and autonomous induction hypothesis.